He's got to be done.
Kind of keep pulling on the edges and pulling into a pile.
Sounds fun.
Oh, yes. Problem is, it's supposed to rain the whole week after.
Is it? So that's after.
Now we are to the stamp leave.
Yeah.
Chip, you want to read some pledges for me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we remain standing, please? Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that you have blessed Brimfield, that our community is growing and that good things are happening. We just thank you for your many blessings. For our township trustee meetings, we thank you for the officers that we have, the department heads, and that you do your best to guide us and direct us in the way that you would have us to go to benefit our residents. We pray, Lord, that you would help us in this meeting, that our words would be kind and our words would also reflect our interest in caring for everybody. We thank you for this day. Bless you in your name, we pray, amen. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Do we have any announcements or correspondence?
None today.
None today? Okay. And our meeting guests, any of you that have come today, if you have anything you'd like to know, you have 5 minutes. Anytime that you want to talk or present an idea or an issue, if it's going to take more than 5, what you need to do is call the town hall and schedule to be on the agenda itself as an item by yourself so that you have time to really let us know what's going on. Minutes. You all had a chance to. Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
we'll go to public, that's for meeting guests first, and get the public comments once we get through it.
Well, that's public comments. Yeah. Okay. We have, you all had a chance to review the minutes from last meeting.
Yes.
This is going to be the regular meeting of September the 6th. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion to approve September 6th meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Yeah, all those in favor, Sue?
Aye.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And next we have the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda as presented?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented for discussion. So we have to approve, we have to make a motion, and then we can,
Right, I'll second that.
all right, now we can make it.
Yeah, you can make, I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda under executive session, police department, need to delete number 2, which is police department consideration of discipline, that can be struck.
So removing number 2 under executive session.
All right. Any other changes to the agenda? I'd like to make a motion that we accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, next we need to acknowledge our purchase orders. I've reviewed them all and I'm in good standing with them, and I would make the motion to accept the purchase orders.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And the warrants, I reviewed them and signed them, and I would like to make a motion to accept those as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, now we have our public comments and questions. Please state your name and address before you address the board and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Who's first? The floor is open. I need your name and address, please.
Why do I have to give an address? What about retaliation?
Well, I need it for the minutes of who you are.
Bridget Turner. 551 Sands Lake Road.
Okay.
So I can speak on any form of questions right now? Like any
Yes.
township?
There's your public comments that you want to share with all of us.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so the voters passed the fire department levy in 220 of $8.5 million. This is Brimfield tax dollars. That is a lot of money. The township community put the trust in Brimfield administrators. to be financially responsible for this money. I would like to know if the contractor was vetted and if there was a date of completion of construction. And most importantly, how much money was paid out to this company? And who was the liaison between the township and the construction company? And what date did the fiasco of the halt of construction was noticed by the township? And how much is this gonna cost for taxpayers for this overseer to rectify the situation? Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all good questions, and I appreciate your concern. Anybody on the board would like to take and answer some of those questions?
Let me take a stab at a couple of them just right off the bat. January of 23 was when it was supposed to be completed. As we all know, there was COVID as well, so that played into some of their and supply chain issues. The cost was 8.4 million. It's going to be a lot more than that by the time of that, because construction costs have gone way up. Concrete, wood, all those, everything's gone way up. That was passed by the board to do that. We've had an issue with our contractor and our architect since the beginning. So we're trying to rectify all of that. If you look in the cost of buildings, 8.4 is this is what it cost. I mean, there aren't any other buildings that you can be able to build like that for $2 million. And actually, when we found out after the fact, because we were looking at a road crew building as well, and we were concerned about how much that was, and we didn't proceed with that. But the people that said, "Hey, your $8.4 billion or $1 million building right now would have been $12 million to do," and that was like a year and a half after that. So that's just the cost of construction. Is what it costs. Sue is the liaison. Craig and Holly are actually, and Joe are in a daily, weekly meeting combination with all the players that play over there. It's a process. I hit them all. I don't know what else ones I missed.
Well,
I think we need to clarify the question. Construction has not halted at any point. It may not look like it from the outside, but there's work being done on the inside. It may be one worker at a time, it may be 10 workers at a time. It fluctuates. But at no point has the work come to a halt. No, there's been no stop work order put on there. There were some rumors floating around that the foreman was let go from the job. The foreman is still there. He's still overseeing the project. As for the construction company being vetted, it was, as a governmental agency, we have to take the lowest and best bid. So we have to take lowest bid. When bids are submitted to the township, we put out a bid book, everybody gets the bid on it, and then we take the lowest and best if it's over that 50,000 point. As long as there's no indicators from other political subdivisions or findings out there, we have to take the contractor that we get. We have been working diligently to keep it going, but there's delays. For example, we're waiting on an elevator. That's the big holdup right now, because the elevator companies are behind, because they can't get parts, because the steel mill can't get parts, and it's a whole trickle down effect is what we've been dealing with.
so is this an open-ended contract where there is
Nope.
no finish date?
So
at all?
when they are doing the work, they have to submit change orders when we need to change things, and they have to submit documentation of why they're not meeting those dates. That documentation has to be vetted and determined, is it acceptable, is it not, based on the practices of construction standards. When we look at those, we have an outside firm that reviews that for us. Originally it was our architecture firm. Now we have a stopgap in there with this outside consulting company. They will look at those and determine how many days the contract should be extended or not extended. Anything that they go beyond that, then there's a fee that will be enacted. The fee isn't collected till the end of the project, because this is phase one. Phase two still has to be done. Time could be made up in the slack of the project in phase two in order to get them more on timeline too. So we have to wait till the end before those pieces can be enacted and reviewed.
Okay, one more time. So according to John, did you just say to me that the 8.5 million? 4 million now is not going to be enough?
Well,
We knew that there's always a potential that cost overages exist there. So as part of this, the township had set aside funding, and that's USDA. So that's our loan servicer, said before we issue this bond of the 8.4, we had to have so much set aside too, as a plus or a plus piece, because I don't know, you dig up a burial ground you didn't know existed there, or whatever it is, some catastrophic piece happens, we'd have so much in reserves, and that's what we're working with in that aspect there. That's the other piece that we have is checks and balances. A lot of people ask, well, have you paid them? Yeah, we've paid them for the work that they have completed. That's determined by the contractor submits paperwork to the architect and says, we've done A, B, and C. The architect verifies that, then submits it to us to say that we should pay it, and then USDA, our loan holder, looks at it before we pay that money out too. So there's a series of checks and balances that are in place to make sure that the money is spent the way it should be on the project and to ensure that it's getting done correctly.
Well, I want to thank you all for a good explanation, and I think that being that people can watch on our YouTube or Facebook our meeting, I think it'll really explain a lot to the residents that do have concerns about this, and thank you very much for your input. Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Riley. I live at 3871 Homestead Drive.
3871. Jim, what was your last name again?
Rohaley, Rohaley.
Okay, thank you.
Do they have a completion date yet expected now? And also, are they working on the town hall? The town hall looks like it is being touched. I don't know if it is or not.
Well, right now, the completion date keeps getting changed and pushed forward, so we do not have a concrete day. What's the current?
October 23rd is right now the tentative date for the firehouse. What you're speaking of, the town hall is part of phase 2.
In phase 2, the town hall side can't start until phase 1's done because we have firefighters still living in portions of that. So we have to move them into the phase 1 building and then start the phase 2 construction.
But when I go by there, there's like walls halfway up on that side.
That was because we had a mason on job site so he could do some preliminary prep work, but beyond that, they can't because some walls need to come down to tie it all together. So we have to wait for phase 2 to start before that can go any further.
You can't start phase 2 until phase 1 is totally done.
Until we have occupancy.
We got to move all the firemen. We have a 24-hour day fire department there, so they're in the old building right now, so they have to move to the new building in order for us to start. Sleep there, live there, they do all that.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other public comments or questions before we move on? Okay, hearing none. Oh, do we have any safety concerns?
No.
Dave, you want to say anything about Cherrywood? We're going to save that till the agenda then.
Yes.
Okay, we'll save that. All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead. This portion of the meeting, we won't accept any comments from the residents that have attended because we're now in the formal session of our department heads. So if you have any, say them so for the good of the order at the end of the meeting. So at this time, we're going to start with the police department. So Chief Mosley, what?
Actually, we were going to bump police department down so we could have Mark and Eddie go and cover his.
Right, we talked about that, but we have more than one issue for now.
Well, that was Mike, do you have another with more?
No, just a cemetery purchase.
That's, okay, that's what, I thought there was a zoning and a cemetery, but it was just a cemetery.
Oh, well, all right.
So
We could move.
just do the land acquisition, that way you don't have to sit here all day, Mark.
Sounds good to me. So,
You can sit here all day if you.
Our pocketbook says let's go first.
okay, at this time, I'd like a motion to change the agenda and let the attorney go ahead and talk about the cemetery purchase.
I'll second that, the amendment to the agenda to move land acquisition before police department.
All those in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, at this time, I would like to present Mark Guidetti. He is one of our attorneys that the township uses when we have issues. And he's been working very diligently on all the legal work that goes into purchasing some property for the cemetery, since we're running out of room. So Mark, you want to come up here or stand so we can all hear
Yeah, I
you?
was just gonna stand here. So as Trustee Fields mentioned, the cemetery is running out of space and there's very limited available resources to expand the cemetery. Pitts Tire and Retreading is a current landowner to the west of Breslin Cemetery. They had some property up for sale for some time. We had reached out to them to potentially acquire essentially a slice of their property to expand the cemetery. Initially, that wasn't successful, so we pursued essentially what's an appropriation process, or commonly known as a taking under the Ohio Revised Code. There's a specific statutory subsection for townships to expand their cemetery. So, and that involves litigation. So we have to prepare the complaint, send it over to the current property owner. We did that. That encouraged them to come back to the negotiation table, which is really precisely what the revised code contemplates. We ended up working out a purchase agreement, which you have attached to the resolution in front of you today, I believe is Exhibit C. That resolution and the purchase agreement authorizes the acquisition of that property. We had an appraisal done. It's a per acre appraisal price. You can see the total amount in there for the 5.03 acres. If you turn to Exhibit C, on page 1, the total purchase price is $124,955.50. So this will complete the acquisition. There'll be some additional work that will need to be completed, including a lot split consolidation plat to essentially combine the property you're purchasing with the existing Westland Cemetery. That work can be completed after you authorize this resolution. I did get an estimate for that. We're looking probably around 9,000 to 10,000. So it's up to you. If you want to authorize it today, you could have a motion to not to exceed 10,000 for the lot splitting consolidation plat. But the big thing is passage of this resolution would authorize us to proceed with the purchase agreement and go through closing and all that.
I'd like to make the motion then for discussion that the township finds it necessary to acquire the above referenced 5.03 acres of property together with all rights, titles, interests, and estates therein and the structures, if any situated thereon, which property is further depicted and described in the documents attached hereto as Exhibits A and B and incorporated herein by reference for the purpose of expanding the existing township cemetery land, which is nearing maximum capacity, will reach maximum capacity in immediately the near future through a real property purchase agreement as set forth in the document attached hereto as Exhibit C, all in accordance with Ohio Revised Code RC 517.01.
I'll second that.
So, one question on this. When I was reading this, we get the property rights interest. Are we getting mineral rights to it then to that property? There's going to be no ability for them to gas line under
You'll
that.
get a fee simple interest, so we actually went ahead and had the title work done early because this is obviously taking some time and having to go through the preliminary stages of the appropriation process. We did get the title work back. There's a couple of utility easements essentially.
Okay.
And I have forwarded those over to the township to review just to see if you guys saw anything I wasn't seeing, and I think we're on the same page basically.
Yep.
There's nothing out of the ordinary aside from typical right of way type interest.
Okay. So there's no mineral rights that we need to worry
Not that
about?
I'm aware of.
Okay. John, and then this is coming out of our ARPA funds, or American Rescue Plan Act.
Correct. So we have to read this a little bit. Nick, do you want to make that motion and I'll read the rest of this here and then you can second and then we can pass it?
Yeah.
Language for that.
I would like to make that motion. That we realize that this is coming,
Okay.
because
Alright.
this is coming out of the ARPA funds, not out of the township taxes.
So, yep, no, that's fine.
Okay. So when I read the sections that apply to this is a 5-page document, but there's only a couple sections that apply to the usage of this. Again, it's the American Rescue Plan money where we were given over $1 million from the federal government to help with the American Rescue Plan for certain things. So as this, section 603 created by the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, which among other things appropriated money to cities, non-entitlement units of local government and counties to mitigate the fiscal effects stemming from the public health emergency with respect to the coronavirus. And whereas the rule further clarifies that recipients can use the American Rescue Plan funds on government services up to the revenue loss amount, which would be a standard allowance amount and the amount calculated using the final 4-step rule process. Government services generally include any services traditionally provided by a government unless Treasury has stated otherwise. Whereas some of the common examples of government services expressly recognized by the Treasury are as follow. road, buildings and maintenance, infrastructure, health services, general government, administration, staff, and administrative facilities. The administrative facilities is the one that we're using on that. Environmental remediation, provisions of police, fire, and other public safety services, maintenance and or pay-go fund building infrastructure, modernization of cybersecurity, including hardware, software, and the protection of critical infrastructure. So then when we go down to the next one here, the project described herein is service the objectives of the act by providing services traditionally provided by the government, namely, and what we're doing here where there's multiple categories, the public infrastructure and the general government administration and administrative facilities and other are the ones that we're going to put out there, and it's land acquisition, which is what we're going to put on the other category.
For cemetery.
For cemetery, correct.
So this motion right now is that we comply with the requirements of the federal government under these ARPA funds that have been able to use. And just wanted to explain that.
John, we had a previous motion though, because you need a resolution number for this contract, and then you need a resolution number for that.
We did. We didn't finalize the vote on.
Yes, you need to finalize the vote first on the resolution authorizing the acquisition of real property, and then the expenditure of funds will be a second resolution number for ARPA.
Yep, but we had to read this at the same time to figure out where that funding was coming from for it. So
Okay.
on the first one, Nick, you made the first motion,
Yeah,
correct?
the resolution authorizing the acquisition of real property.
Okay. Okay, so on that resolution, all in favor? Sue? Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed. Now on the second one, Nick, I need a second on the ARP money.
I will second the ARPA fund
Okay.
usage.
Okay, all those in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. I'm attesting to this and we will get everything set accordingly, Mark, with the payment to the Pitts family.
Yeah, so you have the purchase agreement attached, so after the meeting, if you guys want to sign it, send it over to me, I'll get it over to their realtor, and then we'll move forward with the closing process, and I'll pick it up.
Then we would need another ARPA motion, but we wouldn't need a second resolution for the lot split. We just need that under the ARPA motion.
Let's
To
finalize
pay
that
that.
one to finish signing on that. So that would be the,
You need all three signatures on the land.
I need a
Transfer just two.
majority. So two will be fine. Okay, and then you want me to do the second ARP one?
Yes, we need another ARPA for the lot split.
For the 10,000. I'd like to make that motion.
Where's my paperclip?
And just to be clear with that, that's just an estimate, what they're gonna do is.
Not to exceed the 10,000.
Yeah, and it may increase, from my discussions with the engineering firm. They're gonna have to come out and probably survey the existing township property because the survey was done so long ago. And they're probably gonna have to do a little bit of right-of-way survey work as well. So it could increase, but it's gonna be approximately 9,000-10,000 is the best estimate right now.
Okay, so Sue's making the first one. This one is for the GBC Design Inc. legal description of the land acquisition and merging of the property. So not going to go through all this will be available.
Is that the contract?
Yeah, well, this is their description of what they're
So
doing.
that's already done. The legal description's already done. We had to get that as part of the appropriation paperwork. The lot split and consolidation, that would be additional work beyond what they already did with.
So we're not approving this,
But it's still from them. That's the,
but it's from this
That's the same,
company.
correct.
Okay, so we're using this company, but it's just,
it's additional.
so we just need one motion, which is the ARPA fund motion to use GBC
Exactly.
to do the lot split.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to do this whole thing again here, so bear with me. Whereas Section 603 created by the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, which among other things appropriated monies to cities, non-entitled units of local government, and counties to mitigate the fiscal efforts stemming from the public health emergency with respect to the coronavirus. And whereas Some common examples of government services expressly recognized by the treasurer are as follows. Road building and maintenance and other infrastructure. Health services, general government, administration, staff, and administrative facilities. So this is again going to be an administrative facility. Environmental remediation, provisions of police, fire, and other public safety, maintenance or pay and go fund building infrastructure, modernization of cybersecurity, including hardware, software, and protection of critical infrastructure. Now, therefore, it would be resolved by the board that the township use the elected to use the standard allowance and the presumption of the revenue loss due to the public health emergency and use this amount to authorize therein the fund government services. And we're going to do the project describes herein serves the objectives of the act by providing services traditionally provided by government, namely police protection, fire, emergency, medical services, road repair, maintenance, and other transportation or safety services, public infrastructure support. We're going to use that one again. Government, general government administration and administrative facilities. We're going to use that because of the administrative facilities. And then we are going to use other, but other is going to be the merging of the two properties, the current and the new cemetery property.
I will second that motion.
Hold on 1 second here. Nick is seconded. All those in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed. Oh, and the amount is to not exceed $10,000.
Correct.
Okay, motion passed. I'm good with that.
Okay, so then that completes all the issue with the cemetery. Yeah, that was well over a year that we have worked on that to bring that to fruition. And I'm really pleased the way that it worked out, that we now have plots that we can plot that in and use that land.
Well, and kind of just to add to this, that what we have about 7 years is what our estimate is before we have to shut down the current rest of the cemetery because we don't have enough room. This hopefully gives us another 30 to 40 years over on that side with the current property. So,
Yeah, that's good.
and it was available at that time and is contiguous to our current property and it just plays right into everything.
Hopefully it'll look relatively seamless once it's all done and got a good value for what you bought.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thanks, Mark.
All right.
We do, just since you're in cemetery, so we can close that out, I just want to acknowledge that you have to sign off on the cemetery deeds.
Yeah, there's no motion. We just need to sign it.
Yeah, I just, so we can close out.
Okay.
We don't have to go back to cemetery then.
You want me to sign these now or?
No, I'm just acknowledging we're closing out cemetery.
Okay, all right. Let's go ahead now with our meeting and Chief Musser?
Yeah, thanks, Sue. I just have a couple of informational items for the board this morning. Follow up on the previously approved order of the police cruisers. I have an estimated delivery on those coming in the month of December. Just want to put a heavy emphasis on the word estimated, just because of some logistical pieces. He's shooting for that time frame, but it may go past the first of the year. But I will update you as I know more, but we're tentatively looking for December on that. Second informational item is Officer Brett Dinkelman's last day with us was Friday, September 15th. As you know, Brett has been our school resource officer. He's been with the department since 2011. Brett has taken an early retirement from law enforcement and is going to be exploring some different things that he's going to be doing going forward. So with that, we do have an opening for our school resource officer position, and that's attached to my item of new business, but I'll just touch on that now. I've had an opportunity to sit down with Dave Hefflinger, our superintendent, and Mike Gary, our high school principal, and they're going to be involved in our process for who is going to be selected as our new school resource officer in the school. So that's been posted, and we'll be following up with the schools probably next month to make an assignment for that. But I need to get interested officers to submit their applications first, and then we'll go from there. But the schools are going to be involved in that process.
Is this going to be internal applicants only, or
Right now, it's internal only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have some interest internally?
Some.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on that. Is it possible it could be external? It's possible, but right now it's internal.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other informational item is we're having our paper shredding event. Drive-through event is going to be this Friday. It's going to be from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if anybody has any shredding they need done or any papers in the house, they can come right to the PD parking lot, drive through, you don't even need to get out of your car. We'll have some volunteers on hand to unload people's cars for them and unload this paper. So from 11 to 1, folks are welcome to come to the PD and take care of shredding. Last item, again, just an informational update, follow up to the purchased UAV from the township. All the officers that are certified as pilots went through training on that new unit over the past week and a half or so. So initial training's been completed on that. And other than that, I don't have anything else for you this morning. I do have one executive session that's on the agenda.
Fire department?
Okay. As you can see on my sheet here, there's calls for services for 2022 and 2023 for the board. Informational items, station build, I know we briefly touched on that. The elevator is supposed to be delivered this week. We know that that's been a long-standing item. That once we can get the elevator, then they can move the things to the upstairs and do some of the stuff that's been in delay. Tile in the bathrooms has started. They had a small issue with the FRP that they had put on the tile that it was peeling off, and then we went back to real tile at their cost. So the bathrooms had to get redone in that aspect. Electrical and painting is still happening on the inside, and they're working on some gas lines today. Will be the big thing. Any questions on that from the?
So now we're hoping October, we'll see.
Right,
But being that close on the deadline, have we started furniture and?
No, because
purchases?
the honest answer is I'm not convinced that October 23rd is going to be the correct date still. So
Okay.
I have nowhere, as we talked, we're living in the one side and you've been in.
Yeah.
I got stuff down the hallways. I have nowhere to put anything until we can move
Have
over.
we identified vendors? Is this kind of an action plan?
Yeah, I got those. I got some purchase orders in place, ready to go. But I just,
Since the
I
lead
have
time can be
nowhere.
long, sometimes it's on the part.
Well, I've talked to some of the things, some of the stuff that we need, for example, the basics of beds and monitors and stuff like that are readily available.
Okay.
So it should be a pretty quick purchase.
How about the kitchen equipment?
Kitchen equipment, as far as the range and stuff like that,
Refrigerators.
range came in already.
Okay.
Refrigerators again through Lowe's is a quick order.
I didn't know we were going commercial.
We will, but we can go through their commercial line through them, so everything is kind of just waiting. I can't store anything anywhere, and, as much as I would like to put some stuff in there, we don't have an occupancy permit, so I refuse to put anything in there until I sign off that it's good to go.
Right.
So.
Okay.
I think it's just the smart way to do it.
Right. I just want to make sure we're ready to make that transition so we can start the other side.
We are, but we're still in hold.
Okay.
So, I mean, a lot of this, there's three big things. Water tie-in to the street, elevator coming in, and then some finalized electrical items and stuff like that. So those are big.
All right.
We'll be attending Brimfest. I know Cassie's going to probably speak about that here coming up, but we'll have our spray house out on Saturday afternoon, Friday and Saturday night sausage sales. We'll be in the parade and then handling the fireworks on Saturday night. Only other thing is, about the chase pickup and the damage that happened to that. It's back, it's working properly, so we don't anticipate any issues with that moving forward. And that's all I have.
Okay, good report, Craig. Let's move on to administration. The old business, there is none. So, Nick, you want to go ahead with this new business on the agenda?
Holly's got that.
Oh, Holly's got that, okay.
So Cassie and I have a meeting scheduled next week with a landscape architecture firm to discuss the area behind the library leading to the firehouse and including that playground equipment. So this firm has experience in playground, art areas, all different kinds of spaces. So we wanted to get a company that could really design a nice area, help us decide what to do with that playground equipment and that whole area behind there leading to the fire station. So we'll follow up after we have that meeting and come to you with some recommendations. Second item, the Moby track was removed from McGuire Park on 9/13 by Tim McGuire. I want to thank the team. It was a team effort to finally get to this point. So lots of effort to facilitate getting that Moby track out off of the property. Travel reimbursement and social media procedures are being drafted, so the team and I have been just discussing where we want to go with our social media, how we want to handle posts and responses and different things like that. So we want to bring some recommendations to the board in the near future to discuss that. Additionally, end of part-time temporary status for our Parks and Rec assistant, Erin Bowman. That'll be effective on Monday. She'll conclude her part-time temporary status this weekend as we wrap up with Brimfest. So she'll end that temporary position effective on Monday. On the other side of that, we have hired Hannah Michael or Michelle?
Michael.
I think it's Michael. New Parks and Rec assistant. Her start date is October 2nd. Hannah just graduated from Kent State with a Parks degree. Another update, we are about to issue the Pay One app for the library. Library is coming along nicely. They've had some minor delays, had to do some extra coats of paint and different things. So we had hoped to be done earlier this week to be able to do kind of a little tour for Brimfest. But with the delays, carpets getting installed on Friday, we had some furnace issues, water line issues. So everything should be wrapped up by the end of this week, but unfortunately we won't have anything in there or it to be in a good condition to do any type of open house. So we'll work with the library to do a special open house event as they get everything in there and they're ready, get closer to ready to open.
Okay, any comments about the report?
I have one more thing if I could mention real quick. I forgot to put on here, but just postcards have been issued for the residents of Brimfield Township. They have shipped. They should be delivered starting tomorrow and Friday, just to give a nice update of all of the upcoming events here in Brimfield Township so everybody can look forward to seeing those soon. I didn't get that.
The new Parks and Rec assistant salary for that, and then what was Aaron's previous salary? Are we in the same salary or do we increase salary?
It's $20 an hour.
I have the letter, but I didn't print it. So her wage is $20 an hour, and find what Aaron's was previously.
Was it 1890 or?
I think it was 18 something part-time. Her amount changed.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was 16 when she was full-time, and then when she moved to part-time, I believe it was 18 or 18.50.
Would that require board approval to change that pay structure to allow that additional money for salaries? Because we're changing it from $16 an hour to $20 an hour? Because we didn't authorize that. We just authorized the new position.
Was the filling of?
Was the temporary position that we had authorized, but that's not, she's not filling a temporary.
We're not following, well, we're not following the structure that we had set up before because it's non-existent now because of COVID and all the changes. So it's been a Holly's do the market research. So I guess the answer would be that yes, you need to approve that new pay rate because it's not on the current scale that we had it set up on. But that current scale is not existent anymore because it was prior to COVID.
Right, but we always authorize what the board authorizes the pay scales.
Correct. So we
didn't authorize that pay amount. That has to come before the board for approval.
Okay.
So do we want to not do anything with that right now, or do you guys want to act on it now, or how do you want to do?
I would go ahead and act on it now, so that she can go ahead and start work instead of waiting.
I don't want to hold it up, but I would just have questions of comparing that salary to the other employee's salary to see if it's going to trigger a domino effect, right? Of, well, now we're taking an assistant and bumping up to this, but we got a full-time position that's making the same or close
I
to the
believe
same.
she's lower than everybody, correct? Than the wages, than the current administrative staff.
Correct, yes, lower than everybody currently administratively.
Roy, do you know what your secretaries are making over there?
I would have to double check. I don't know off the top
Oh,
of
it's
my head.
more than that.
Are they over 20 an hour?
Yeah, I believe so.
I
think
will
the job description is different.
Right, I'm worried about that domino effect, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you do it here, then it's gonna create those pieces.
So I have compensation experience. Part of my recommendation in doing that is I also look at internal equity as well as external equity. So I would not make a recommendation to bring someone in without exploring what everyone else's hourly wages are, salary, union, whatever. I look at all of that when I make the recommendation. So I can provide that as follow-up, but that's all been reviewed and part of the recommendation when I made it in the first place.
Yeah, I just like to see it be able to.
Down the road, maybe we need to adjust to figure out our whole pay scale levels again, because we've done that at one point, but it's outdated. So not that we do it again like that, but maybe come up with a structure and how it gets approved and what happens. I mean, that's something we need to figure out, because
The board sets the salary range or the amount of money we're willing to put into that category. And that's just what triggered the question. And then being able to see that information to make an informed decision is just important.
Yeah, and we ended up losing the first girl, didn't we? That we went after. Her employer matched it and bumped her wages, and we lost her. So she went back to her current employer. Unfortunately, and with police and fire and everybody, it's just a competitive marketplace out there to bring staffing and
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree. I just wanted to see where we're getting the number from, how we're getting there, how those decisions are made for the board.
based on the market. So we have an option here to either leave that out there or proceed with it. I mean,
Well, we can't hire, if we hired her, she had to be at that $16 range until we had the board approval.
but if you guys wanted to do a board approval now, are you not willing to do that?
I mean, if you're telling me that you did the compensation, you're gonna send the compensation
I
over
will,
you
yes.
to me, then, based on your recommendation, then I'd be willing to move forward with it. But just in the future, if we could have that information prior to the meeting, that helps.
Well, and that's kind of where we need to come up with that strategy again and how we do that, because we did have it set up that way, but that's non-existent anymore. And we have to come up with how it's gonna be approved by you guys or her, if it comes to you ahead of the meeting, or how, we just have to come up with a new.
It's just gotta be,
Process.
I mean, it's clear and simple. It has to be approved by the board. It's just how does the information come to us?
Right, but it has to be a new process, because, let's say we just were paying $20 an hour, but we find out that the market's paying way more and we can't get anybody and people are going back. We have to have, what are we gonna do at that point, and how does it come in front of the board, and we just have to have that process of what happens.
Yeah,
To
we
be
just, but
competitive.
it just can't be up to department heads or administration to make a financial offer without it coming to the board first.
Sure.
Right, the board has to be.
Well, and I'll step in there from Holly's perspective. It was discussed with me. I was involved with it, but I'm not a voting.
But
board.
you're not, yeah, and
Right.
that's separation that we talked about, right? Like, you're the finance guy, you can see the money's there, but you gotta go to the board to get approval.
Well, I
There has to
understand.
be a separation.
But
So
we had
I'll do two things. I'll give you the information that I reviewed, and I'll also develop a process moving forward for how we'll handle future wage recommendations.
Okay, that would be good. You can make the motion.
I'll make the motion that we accept, recommendations of Holly in hiring Hannah Michael, new Parks and Rec assistant, with the starting date of October the 2nd of 2023, not to exceed $20 an hour.
Okay.
Second that, and that's a full-time position, correct?
It is.
Okay.
All those in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
The next question I had under admin, tax reimbursement. I know you were looking into that. Is that part of your travel reimbursement, social media procedures, or where are we at? I guess that's kind of for both of you. How are we gonna handle this tax reimbursement? We haven't had it in 2 meetings, but we had 3 meetings before that where we had tax submitted. So any status update on that?
That is the travel reimbursement policy. That would include meal reimbursements.
Okay.
All of that will be part of that
And then
recommendation.
are we gonna have a plan of action? So when we talked, the other issue was when employees go out and purchase something with their own debit card, they end up paying tax. Do we or do we not reimburse that? Are we allowed to legally reimburse that under the tax?
It gets more, I'm just gonna talk about a stipend amount that just becomes, why don't we just skip that until we get to that, the whole process?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then the last one is, do we have any update from the insurance piece, the health insurance where they might have the payback because the Supreme
Yes.
Court denied the case?
Yes, we lost. Well, I don't want to say they lost, the Ohio Supreme Court decided not to hear it. So
Right, but I know we were waiting for some feedback on what
We've
steps.
talked to
we're
the
gonna
Ohio Attorney General, and we're going through the process of that. It's just not created yet, but we're going through the process of how the repayment would happen.
take. Okay, so we're working through, because I got the indication from Brett that he needed to know sooner than later.
But with Brett, it's all taken care of with Brett.
I handled it all last week.
Yeah.
And we had a meeting this week with the individual who's gonna help us facilitate the refunds
Okay,
through the OAG's office.
All right, so somebody at the OAG's office is gonna do that.
Shelley.
We need to add that to the agenda.
No, I just did.
Okay, that's an FYI,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, is there any other information about admin that needs to be brought before the table? In that case, then let's go ahead with zoning and economic development.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Well, I appreciate it, and thank the board for approving the cemetery land purchase. Mark and I worked on that for over a year, and we're rolling right into McGuire Park land acquisition now, as far as swapping or trading and trying to figure that out along with the county engineer on what we're gonna do with the end of the road right before Sutton Crossing. So that's where we're heading into next. The other thing is Joe's Barbecue. I mentioned this before. I'm going to keep updating everybody on Joe's Barbecue because we get a lot of calls on it. It was granted approval for demolition, and permits were issued. They paid for both zoning and fire, and the asbestos remediation started. And the first one would be the Sally's Tavern, and the house will be torn down, and then you'll see construction going forward with that. The plan looks good. Pavlika Architecture did the design, Wolin did the engineering, and everything went through the boards. So it's all good to go. A couple other things that aren't on here. Chase Bank is going good. They're moving along very well. I would anticipate them still opening this year.
And I see from your report, we have 25 new homes so far this year.
That's correct.
Did have come into Brimfield. And also, right now, you've got 29 projects on your table, on your plate that you're working with.
Great.
And I appreciate the oversight of what's happening in Brimfield. That it is all put together, nothing's out there floating around loose, that we've got it all contained in here. Thank you, I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just a couple quick updates. Sheets, they made, I saw it was on your report, they're working. Is there any updates on the Sheets project?
Yeah, I mean, behind the scenes, they're looking, they're doing their due diligence on the site, make sure that there's nothing on the site that was missed. We gave them all the records that we had through the years. They contacted Portage County Building Department to see what was there prior and what is there. Everything came back so far so good. So survey came back, soil testing came back good. So I think we're go for probably November's BZA meeting.
Okay. And that's just to go to BZA.
Correct.
So
As
probably
a condi-
2024 build.
Yeah, it's a conditional use, so they gotta get approval through that.
The apartments, whatever, townhomes, whatever we want to call those that were coming behind the elementary, is that still stalled or have they?
I have not heard from Pride One. It was stalled last I heard it because they couldn't agree. Some of the prices changed at the end because of the TIF, and I think the current landowner was upset. So I don't know where that is yet. I reached out to Ben Wienerman with Pride One, but he hasn't gotten back. So.
Okay. And then the last one was I just saw the charging stations may be coming to Meyer. I know years ago we had talked about some zoning charges and fees, and we were going to cover that in the zoning code. Did that get added to the zoning code or not?
No. So zoning commission requested regional planning take a look at it. Regional planning had said what we'll do is we'll create one for all the townships, but that has not happened since then. So what we did in order to approve the charging stations and to get a good look at it was there's accessory structures. So by definition of code, they're accessory structures, and you're only allowed 2 accessory structures per lot.
Okay.
So what I did is they had to go in and grant variances, and they paid a fee of $250 for each unit to be looked at, and then the location. That triggered a whole design of layout of parking lots, parking spaces. And then of course, it's $250 to go for the variance, but then it was another $50 per each structure. So it was like $300 per unit to come. But that's the only way I could think of permitting it.
Yeah, and it's not so much about the money, it's more about just making sure that we have some control, because we talked about that this could just really snowball into, Nick's electrical charging unit lands a contract with Meyer to rent area to put this in.
And the thing that we have to consider too when these units go in is it's still considered a parking spot, but it is taking up parking spaces. So if you have your limit in your parking area, and you're required 100 spots and you have 100 spots. Now you're taking 5 units and they're charging stations. Well, there's not enough parking just for every day. So we have to consider that when they bring in the plans, just to, make sure there's no other variance needed or other additional parking spots are required. So,
Thank you for the update.
sure.
Any other comments for Michelle in the Economic Department? Okay, thank you, Maria.
Sure.
And then we have Dave Rooker with the Road Department.
Hello, morning. Just a few updates real quick. The Howe Road chip and seal project starting to come to a conclusion. They should finish up Lorraine, Clearfield, Eckwood, and Steelwood today. And then by the end of the week, they're supposed to sweep the roads and get them lined, Howe Road and Sunnybrook. Then the King Ridge paving project, they've completed the driveway work, so now they're gonna start milling the roadway, get it ready for paving, and of course, fix some of our worst spots in the development. James Bishop, he started today, our new hire for the road department. Working on stuff for Brimfest like everybody else. I mean, it's the thing this week. At the library, we finished putting the pipe in. We enclosed the ditch along the library because we could not get the water to flow properly, so we put a pipe in there. That way it eliminates any soft spots along the roadway and stuff. Plus, we also got the shutters back on, got the pressure wash at the library and stuff. So pretty much what I got, I think is concluded for the time being until we see something else that needs done.
Did we get the flower beds just straightened up a little bit, like some of the?
We weeded them off.
Okay.
We're
Just with
waiting-
Brimfest coming, we just make it
Right,
look
we
kind of nice.
had them all weeded off and stuff, so.
Okay.
We cleaned that up. We're waiting to figure out what we're gonna do with the flower beds, you know what I mean?
They're kind of big.
And myself personally, I'd like to see the flower beds taken all the way to the sidewalk.
Okay.
That way we don't have to try to mow a strip that's 2 feet wide or something, so.
Right.
That way, I mean, or, do one or the other, so. We'll figure something out one of these days. Okay, my next thing is, needs board's approval. For the Cherrywood Culvert project, I would like to award the job to Homing Excavating for a price of $47,500. Sorry, I didn't say that the right way. They can start to work here pretty soon, so I'd like to move forward with that before we get the project going.
I'd like to make the motion to award the bid to Hemley Construction for a price not to exceed $47,500 for discussion.
Second, for discussion.
So you got multiple bids on this?
I got a couple. I just had Homing and, what's the other name? Bone Tree Care Landscaping. A couple other guys could not fit it in at this time unless we want to let the road sit closed for another 2-3 months, so.
How soon, because that's it's the hot topic in the community right now.
Right.
How soon are we looking at them starting?
I will have to talk to Trey, but he said he could get us in pretty quick.
Okay.
So the biggest thing is, again, like everybody else is having trouble with, we're pretty sure we secured the pipe for the project. And
That was
stuff.
gonna be
So
my next
that's
question.
the
Have we
biggest-
found?
Right, so there's 140 feet of 48-inch pipe we have to put back in, so.
Are we sticking with the same size pipe or did we have
Yes,
upsize?
no, so we're staying everything right at 48-inch.
Okay.
Because that actually, in the day when they did a hydraulic test on it, that was for your 100-year storm, you know what I mean? So the
Right.
pipe size is adequate. We're not gonna drop it where we have to redo hydraulics and all that, so,
Right.
Do
no.
you think this construction project, is it going to take a crane or anything like big equipment?
It'll take a bigger excavator to be in there, dump trucks, because, we only have a 20-foot easement, so pretty much everything's gotta be dug and hauled out all at the same time. So the trucks will be going in, pretty much dig, twist, fill trucks and go. Most of the stuff will be eliminated. We're gonna put premium stuff back in. So most of the dirt that's there will be gone.
And this doesn't include fixing all the weeds and rocks that we talked about with the runoff. That's a future project.
Yes.
I'm good.
Okay, I'd like to make that motion.
We already have a motion.
Oh, then, okay,
All
that's
those-
right, we're discussing it now.
All those in favor, Sue?
Call for the vote, yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, and the next board approval is I'd like the board to approve that, for the Cherrywood Culvert project, that, the township ourselves will pay for the pipe. Not to exceed 20,000.
I included that in the last one. You want me to read this because I thought it was all part of the same.
No, that motion was just for 47.5.
Yeah, that was 47, this would be 20.
But I put them together in two different.
Yeah, no, we would
That's
do
fine.
those as two separate.
That's fine.
So I'd like to make the motion to purchase pipe for the road project not to exceed 20,000.
Second.
Dave, so you said you found a place to secure pipe from?
Yeah, pretty much, Core Main said they could get us the pipe in.
Okay.
The problem is, I mean, price is going nuts on pipe, it's $90 a foot. So for that size of pipe. which-
Right.
But, so yeah, we're pretty confident. Core Main said they could pretty much get it in for us as quick as possible.
And then is this coming out of contingency funding? How are we handling that?
This is coming out of room crew money.
Yeah,
Okay, so you got enough money to
I
get this
have
project?
funding left over from a couple of the other projects that should take, this didn't come in as high as I thought,
Okay,
so.
okay.
It'll come out of 2195.
Thank you.
I think that's a number.
Yep, it is.
Sometimes I get my numbers backwards.
That's it. You're right. All those in favor? Sue? Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, well, that concludes my report, and see everybody at Brimfest. That's where I'll be living the next couple of weeks.
All right, let's go to Parks and Recs.
All right, well, the bulk of my report is Brimfest. So I attached to your report some of the flyers from Brimfest, just to give you an idea of what we have planned for this year. We have some new entertainment. Of course, the parade is coming back this year. I'm very excited about that. So we have some new elements going on, and we have a lot of vendors this year, and I'm just really excited. And I wanted to thank everybody, especially Holly, Joe, and Dave, for allowing me to delegate some tasks for you guys and all the extra work you've been putting in. I really appreciate it, and I want to thank the Kelso House and the Lions Club for all of their help. We've really had a good group this year, I think, and I think it's going to be the best one yet. So thank you, everybody. And then my other item is we're starting to think about Christmas. My rule is don't talk about Christmas until after Brimfest, but I'm breaking my own rule. So I spoke to Window Genie yesterday. They're the ones who did the roof lines at the Kelso House last year. We discussed adding the gazebo back in this year and also the library. So I'm going to get a quote from them on that. And then also I was approached by a gentleman who has a Christmas lighting business in Edinburgh Township, and he makes custom Christmas decorations similar to what we had before with our other displays, the motion displays. He has over 600 different pieces. So I'm going to meet with him next week and just see what he has in stock and get some quotes for you guys on that. And then this isn't on my agenda, but I just wanted to thank Erin for all of her hard work that she's put in over the past couple of years. She was a really great employee. And I want to welcome Hannah. I'm very excited to have her. She was an intern for Portage Park District over the summer. So she was at our Touch a Truck event. And then also her and Holly from Portage helped with our summer camp this year. So I did get to meet her a couple times, and I've seen how she is in action. So I'm excited to work with her. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Joe, your turn.
I don't have anything specifically. Glad to, be part of the Brimfest first time as an employee. I enjoyed it many, many years as a resident. So to get to see behind the scenes and be part of it is going to be really fun. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend.
I know we try to keep Joe short sometimes when I have a question. So.
Yes.
No. Censors you.
The AT&T project. So did we get the police part of that done?
The police
Do we have to
part
put it off the
is in
fire?
production, yes. The spectrum has been turned off. We had to cancel the fire because I can't keep the order open any longer than I have, and since we don't have a date to give them,
Totally understand that.
yeah. So
But the police, I guess.
the police is in production, and it has been for several weeks. We have not had one issue with it since it went live. So it's working wonderfully, and it is, as part of that installation, we created a real-time connection to the Kent State Dispatch. So originally, each individual computer in the police department was making its connection independently, which was giving them issues here and there. So when they boot up their computer, the computer would connect to Kent State. Now that's a network level connection. So we're not putting the burden on the computer and the individual person to log into Kent State. There's always a link to Kent State. And there's actually two. One through the fiber through AT&T and one through AT&T Cellular. And
So-
both of those are real time up. So if one goes down, there's a delay because both tunnels are live full time.
So when the fire, when is that point? Does it have to be totally done over there for them to come back?
We have to be into phase 2. So
Okay, so
the
admin.
fiber
Right, needs
runs
to be done.
from the pole past the existing admin building. So after fire moves into the building, they have to cut the existing driveway, the existing apron to the old building and run conduit under it.
And that's where the new lines.
Yes, so that's why it's
Okay.
been delayed, is that it's gonna be one of the first steps as part of phase 2, is getting that apron of the old driveway cut and then extending conduit under it. Once that's in place, then I can start back with AT&T.
Okay,
All right, thanks.
very good. That's a very good report for not having a report.
Yes, and I am looking forward to the LED sign. I was originally told about 4 weeks. I should have some information. I'll follow up with here probably in another week just to confirm that we're still on track for getting the new LED sign in.
And they put it up and do all that, we don't have to do anything with it.
Yes.
What's gonna happen to the old LED sign, the one that's there now?
You want it?
I have a quote to refurbish it if we want to. I don't know if with the age of the sign and the fact that it is actively acting up, I don't know if it's, I guess I would bring that to the board if we've seen any value in putting more money into the sign.
Well, it depends on the cost to refurbish, and if the police department wants to pick up the cost to refurbish for use over there.
I can give you the quote. I believe it was right around $3,000 to refurbish it and reinstall it. And that was based on steel posts being put into the ground.
Joe, I think Joe and I sat down and talked about just kind of options, and one being, approaching police for it. But is there something with, remind me, Joe, they're no longer servicing or it's discontinued?
The availability of parts is declining rapidly. So it is not a currently supported sign. To help with keeping the sign working, our vendor actually bought parts from Watchfire and they're keeping them in stock. So they have an extra power supply and they have an extra panel. And the part of that quote was go ahead and installing those components into the sign to fix the active issue, which is those 3 panels flaking. But we've already replaced a power supply once this year. So I'm conflicted. I mean, yes, I would love to see it repurposed, and that was the intention. But the longer we've run in on it, the more problems we're having.
It's just an inquiry. Yeah, I wasn't saying I'm definitely gonna take it. I'm just
How
curious.
much was it
If it could be.
John, is it
I
20?
have to pull up the exact quote.
Did we have like $6,000 left in the no-pay grant?
We
After
did.
that,
Yes. So we could use the NOPEC
there's
grant.
still money in the no-pay grant, which will qualify for a sign for you. It's not gonna be probably as big as the one that we have in the park, but
For sure.
maybe we should look into that and use the rest of that, because the only project that we had out there, other than the sign, was the gas here, and that's not gonna, without the road department, it's not.
I'd rather see you get a newer sign if we could. Also, I'd like to see it aesthetically match other stuff,
Sure,
right?
that
I mean,
makes
we hate to
sense.
see steel posts
Yep.
just sitting out there.
Yeah, understood. That makes sense.
Do you remember what the quotes were that we got for yours? I know that Rochelle was higher than that. Was it 10 or 11 or something like more than that?
Yeah. They gave a couple different quotes. I'd have to pull the paperwork. There was like A, B, and C.
Okay.
Can we look at maintenance and improvement fund to float, if we use that grant and the maintenance and improvement to float the project?
Just an inquiry, wasn't saying we need to definitely do it, but if that sign, my initial thought was, hey, is there any life left in that sign? Could we potentially use it? And if not, if we're end of life on parts, then okay, that probably doesn't make sense. I see what you're saying, so.
Well, but
We
if you
have
look at
different
money,
options.
we have to use that money though. So if we don't use the no-pay money, we just lose it. So, yeah, why don't we chit chat with that?
Okay, sure.
Can you have Rochelle bring all that stuff back? 'Cause she's the one that did all the proposal for it.
Okay.
Just have it shoot it over to Holly.
Yeah, I think I remember meeting with them. They came out and met with me at the PD and they walked through some different options. I may still have that documentation in my office, so.
But I thought she was the one that had all the quotes. Did she do all the quotes? I thought she did.
Maybe I might have coordinated through Rochelle at that time from my office, but yeah, I can follow up with that.
Yeah, so we can definitely look at those.
Well, I've been thinking about this sign. The current one we have there was a NOPEC grant, and it was at least 15 years ago.
Yep.
And the NOPEC grant at that time gave us not quite, almost $20,000 for the sign. Now, it's been up there for 20 years. And if that's the case, I think it would be better to investigate that we're talking about is having a completely new sign that will all, the cost of that will all come from grant money in one way, form, or another. So, and we also get a manufacturer's warranty.
Well, the new one from the park is all out of the NOPEC money. And we had $34,000, which was some money from this year and money carried over from the year before.
Mhm.
And we had, just so we keep the NOPEC, there were two options of what we thought we were gonna do with that. And we, over the years, have beat up all the other NOPEC options in regards to doing that. The one was the sign in the park and the other one was the gas connection that was over here.
Right.
But that was only gonna work if we did the road crew building, which the gas thing isn't worth it now. So if we spend that, that just leaves some of that remaining money. And that's where we can use the rest of that to pay for that. And then any others, it's a.
I think it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation to replace
Is
it.
there rumors of the NOPEC coming back again next year, or are they
I
done?
don't know.
It's kind of a fire.
I haven't heard no or yes.
Because I just have an idea for next year, but we'll wait to see if it comes in.
We'll definitely need those.
Okay. Cemeteries covered fiscal.
Oh, well, we handled the Brimfield Cemetery land purchase with the attorney that was here, so that's, we want, we had some deeds.
Yes, we got all those.
Those are all done.
Yep.
So in that case, then, John,
I
let's
do
go
not-
with your fiscal.
I do not have anything.
John,
You
I
have
have
anything?
two questions on for you. Well, one of them was just taking you to this for next meeting. Can you give us an ARPA account status update at next meeting?
Yeah.
Just so we can see how much funding's left in there.
Uh-huh.
And then second, have we received the money back from Talmadge for that road project?
No, we're still working on trying to get the money back.
What's the holdup? Talmadge just doesn't want to pay?
It was just a couple of clarifications on paperwork.
Okay, so have we sent them the clarifications?
Yes.
Alright.
Yeah, they didn't sign the thing yesterday, it was getting sent back over.
Okay, if they don't have it by next meeting, maybe we need to send them a reminder letter from the board. So
Call
they
that
get your
or-
money.
The engineer's office has been pushing toward them too, so.
Okay, I just would like to get our money before the end of the year because that.
Oh, we should get it before that. It was, like I said, it was just a couple of clarification things that had to be just a number here and a number there.
So, all right. All right, thanks, John, for the ARPA piece. Sure. For next meeting too.
Okay, next we have an executive session. And what I would like to explain, we have some new guests with us today. The way this board works, we adhere and have to go by what the Ohio Revised Code, what their laws and what their requirements are. But I would like to explain that, yes, we have 3 elected officials here. Now, we comprise of 4.
There's actually 4. I just don't-
4, yeah. I'm sorry, John. I was thinking of Mike sitting on it. But we comprise this board. Now, although we sit here as a board, when we make comments and we address our opinions and we let people know what we think, that is our own individual thought. That is our thoughts from what residents have come and contacted us of what their concerns are, and we bring their concerns to the board. And so what happens is each one of us work independently. And just because we sit up here on this board, we don't necessarily always agree with each other. And that's fine, because you do that in marriage too. You have discussions. So I just wanted to explain, we all work independently, and if we agree, that's wonderful. And if we don't agree, then we have to go back out and research it and rethink it and decide what is going to be the best for the residents. So I just want to let you know, I don't always agree with everybody. And we all have that option, but that's how the Ohio Revised Code has it set up. There are times when I'm talking about, like a resident has addressed me with something, I personally don't agree. But that's not the point. The point is that resident has the right to have their concerns brought before the board. Thank you.
Well, before we go into executive, oh, okay.
to address your question, Kirsten's really quick. We currently have 341,305.2 in the ARP money, but we just spent 125,000 for the cemetery and 10,000 for the merging of the property. So that gets us to 206. We're under, it's kind of a hard number because we're still working on the library stuff and we still have a couple flows that come in after that, but we were under the budget amount. $200,000 probably have in there, but part of that was the parking lot issue over at the soccer field. That was supposed to be included in there, the gazebo, but we weren't gonna, or the pavilion, but we weren't gonna proceed with the pavilion. Other than that, all of our things that we wanted to get done under the plan, under the ARP money are completed except for that.
Okay.
The parking lot issue. So we did
Well-
pave, we did the paving of the police department and the cemetery and the library building. There was something else we bought out there.
What about the library?
Oh, the building, that's what. The big chunk, like $400,000.
All right, well, I would like to suggest just that before we do the parking lot, that maybe we have a full, like, meeting.
Decide what we need to do with the rest of it.
Decide it, because I still question doing dual layer parking there. I think we get more use out of that property if we do just single off-road parking potentially on that. It's gonna get more use out of those fields for everybody. And then also that would lower our cost point, because some of this money might be able to help with some other projects. I talked with Craig, there's a potential need. Remember, we bought 2 ambulances back to back. We could have 2 of them fail at the same time. Should we be exploring an ambulance option if we have some of this grant money to kind of extend the life of those ambulances and your call volumes up? At some point, it's gonna be rough to keep running them.
Well, we're already paying for one of them out of the M&I money that we're paying for. So.
But when we ended up buying, just because of how the money fell, we ended up buying back to back. I'd rather see us in a cycle where there's 5 years between each one.
When I think the only other project that was out there was this, right here, the redoing the deck or whatever it was. I think that's the only one I know of right now that's out there. Does anybody else know?
McGuire Park entrance.
Yeah, but that was gonna be, TIF money.
Yeah, you can use TIF money.
Yeah. And it would be M&I money, so it wouldn't be the ARPA money.
Yeah, but if we could tie ARPA with M&I on another squad, that could be a big piece too.
Why?
Just the thought, I just want to toss it out there, I want to see where we were with the funding.
No, that's no problem. We have about $200,000. I mean, that's a round estimate, and that's based off of if we find another crazy thing at the library that has to be fixed that we didn't know. Yesterday, Holly worked with Rob. There was a water issue over there with one of the pipes not. They had to take the pipe out and do all that stuff. So there's things like that that just might pop up here, but it was a small, $270 or something like that to fix it. But he thought it could have been $5,000, but we don't.
You don't know until you get into it.
Yeah, so he's still not done with all that stuff. So I don't want to 100% say it's a 200,000. Let's just use that as a round number.
Yeah, just toss some ideas. I think we just need to think about that.
That's
And we want to use the money over time because whatever left over from other municipalities, we can bid on then, so.
Right, but we don't want to lose our money to.
Yeah, we have to zero ours out so that we can take more. Before we go to executive, do we want to open it up for the good of the township in case people don't want to sit around for however long we have executive?
Yeah, okay. Are there any comments from you all out there for the good of the order?
So same as before, just name and
Okay.
5 minutes.
Richard Turner, Red Ones, any liquor. I'm glad you brought up Nick, because I'm all new to this, that you actually are hiring people at $20 an hour without anybody's approval. How does that happen? How does that happen?
That's why I asked the question today.
How does that happen? So,
We gotta get some processes in place.
how do you come up with a figure without, you just pull that figure out?
No, if you remember, Holly did a community evaluation. That's what she does. She's our business manager, HR manager.
Okay, that's not what I asked.
But that's how we came up with
I
the number.
asked, how did she come up with the hourly rate?
That's what I just said. She didn't do it on her own. She looked out to the community and her tools to figure out what the costs are in this area for that price. That's what she did.
Okay, so when you're an applicant and you apply for that job, the first thing you wanna know is how much are you going to make? So how did she have approval to say, oh, this is a $20 an hour job without the backing of?
Well, I had mentioned that as well. Nick had made a comment in regards to that. I approved the $20,000.
You are approval by your lump sum?
Well, it depends. Anything that goes through the township that's less than a $5,000 cost, I have the authorization to approve those without having to come to a board meeting as the fiscal officer. I'm your elected fiscal officer to take care of the money. With regards to that, we should have had a comment in regards to the $20 amount. We did have an amount that we had set out there for the cost of all the jobs that were out there, but we had COVID. And if you know this, I don't know if you do, but prices for everybody have gone through the roof. So to be competitive, we needed to get over that. So our current amount is not valid at all. And we did have a prior employee that was in that position who was currently being paid that amount. So that's where that came from.
That's not what she stated, that the prior employee did not make.
She didn't make that much, but we did have a prior employee that was in that position. Can I answer it?
Yes.
Okay.
Legal jumbo mumbo.
There's no legal jumbo mumbo in there.
I don't offer money out to anybody unless I have the goods to back it up.
Well, we have the goods to back it up.
But how do you go about stating those numbers without?
So you're asking, how do we make, what should be the process in order to authorize the pay?
Anybody's approval. I don't understand that. I feel like Brimfield is really, I appreciate all of you, everyone sitting here, your time, your efforts. But I feel like a lot of stuff is done without the knowledge of people, and I.
Well, I'm glad that you're coming to a meeting now for the first time. I mean,
Not the first time, I've been to a few in my day.
well, I've been here for 18 years and I don't recognize you at all. So, but I'm glad that you're coming now. And my office is always open. If you want to come over and discuss the finances of Brimfield Township, I'm always available to do that. I will explain where all of our money goes. I'll explain what it costs to run a township. We have now 70 employees. I don't know, we hired a couple, 70 employees now. We have almost 15,000 residents in Brimfield Township. We're not the Brimfield Township of, 25 years ago. So
Yeah, I completely understand.
that's why I have
To
no
answer
problem if you
your
want to come and talk.
specific question, the process should have been, and this is what we'll fix going forward, is that if we're gonna hire, we can backfill a position at current pay, because the position's been approved by the board. If the pay was going to change, then they would come before the board and say, hey, we're hiring this position, but we want to change the pay scale to X. The board approves it, and then you make the offer. That should have been the process. Here, they made the offer before the board had made the approval. I voted to approve it based on her recommendation from the study that she did. The study should have been submitted first for approval, and then the offer.
I appreciate you.
That's great. The study was done though, just so it
Yeah,
wasn't
I didn't
pulled
say
out
the
of the
study
air.
wasn't done.
Nobody made the number up. Holly did not make that number up anywhere. It was a study that was done. Well, you mentioned that it was pulled out of the air. So
All right, you're going in the executive session.
No, we have comments on the floor.
Oh, Nick, I'm sorry.
This is a hard, what are the flags for down on 1843 there?
18 and 43.
Oh,
Right
that,
corner.
they marked out the level 3 communications through there, I don't know if that's part of the Joe Barbecue process, but or the water time for the fire.
Oh, it's post marking, isn't
Right,
it?
and it's just utility marking.
They're not gonna do anything or anything about it.
Well, we did a study to use the sewer tie, or
That was part of the
stormwater.
sewer tie-in from the stormwater runoff.
Oh,
It's right there.
They're trying to figure out, with the stormwater from the new fire station isn't connected yet.
okay, just curious, I've been asked a couple of times.
There was a drawing that showed it one place and it's another place, so that's why they had to remove it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.
Not
Any other comments?
I have one comment.
What?
I would hope that when the fire department gets into phase 2, the residents of Brimfield don't hear anything about having material delays. It's been going on and on and on. I would think all that material was in stock or in the general contractors, subcontractors, inventories.
Should be sitting in their warehouse at this point.
Yeah, because if they come out and say, well, we're having material delays, I think the residents of Brimfield are just gonna go nuts.
Yeah.
Based on what I've been reading on social media.
that's the worst part too. And I want to comment on that social media. Well, I've seen, I watch it and don't say a word out there. 95% of those people don't have a clue of what is actually going on, but they start the rumor and it gets going and it's,
Once rumor mill gets
yeah, I
started,
know.
they'll go absolutely for sure.
He has a question too.
Have a nice day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a question, I spoke to you about this last time.
Yes.
It's on the meeting, for the fire department, I'd like to know what is with people burning fires in their yard? Leaving them burn all night, smoking, through, my wife has throat cancer. As soon as it cools down, we want to open our windows if we can, with the smoke coming in. What exactly is, I have called the fire department once. It already caused a problem for me. You can't talk to these people, and there's a lot of people like to do it, they enjoy fire, but they're not making little small fires and then putting them out when they go in. They're making these giant fires, and they're just smoking, and then they go to bed.
Okay, Craig, would you like to talk about that subject?
Yeah, so Brimfield doesn't make their own rules. It's by the state of Ohio that does the Ohio burning laws. If it's a 3x3 area of a fire and it's clean, dry wood, they can burn. Once they add trash or, wet leaves, stuff like that, they can't burn. I can give you a pamphlet too of what the laws say, but if it is a 3x3 area of campfire wood, they can burn.
I don't think too many ever go using campfire.
Right, and that's where you would call and it would come out and evaluate that.
I know, and I wouldn't be a pest to call the fire department.
Well, that's kind of the main thing. Nobody wants to really, they don't want disputes with their neighbors, but we can't do anything unless we're called.
So aren't they supposed to put these out when they're done?
Not if it's in a contained area and it's
So
3x3.
What exactly is a contained area?
Just a barrier. Could be rocks, could be bricks.
That's all it needs?
Yeah. Doesn't specify what that area is. But again, that's not a Brimfield rule.
It was, I mean, did you have a question? I don't know. Did you raise your hand back there? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I have one more comment. I felt Sue agreed to slam the gavel down when I was in the discussion, sorry.
Well, you have your 5 minutes. Well exceeded.
Could you tell me I had 30 seconds left before you hit the gavel? I thought that was rude.
I was rude.
I do not. It really did seem that way. That things kind of escalated, and she's a concerned resident, and she was trying to voice her opinion.
She was stopping my conversation as well.
Down very, very quickly, and just to kind of end the conversation.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Adjourn.
No, we have executive.
That's
we have an executive session with the police department, and,
You making the motion?
yeah, we need that motion.
So you got the, you want me to read?
I got it.
I'll make the motion to go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G, for the purposes of considering the following manners: discipline or compensation of a public employee or official, except as otherwise provided by law. No public body shall hold an executive session for the discipline of an elected official for conduct related to the performance of elected officials' duties or the elected official's removal from office. The public body holds an executive session pursuant to Division G1 of this section. The motion and vote to hold the executive session shall state which one or more approved purposes listed in Division G1 of this section are the purposes for which the executive session is held, but not to include the name of the person to be considered at the meeting. We go on to this information is directly related to the request. Oh, no, that isn't it. A unanimous quorum of the public body determined by roll call vote that the executive session is necessary to protect the interests of the applicant or the possible investment expenditure. That's my motion. Roy, you need anybody just us? All right, so just Roy and us and the board.
Okay. All those
You
in
want me in
favor?
it?
Just Petey.
we're returning from executive session at 5 minutes after 10.
All right, based on our discussions in executive session, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the police department to offer sign-on bonuses for police patrol hiring, in addition to utilizing the Maple Crest TIP #1 funding.
I will second that.
Move to approve PD to offer sign-on bonus.
Offer additional sign-on bonuses. Additional sign-on bonuses utilizing Maple Crest TIP #1 funding.
Effective today.
Effective today.
9/20/23. Okay, Sue, you seconded?
Yes, I second that.
And all those in favor, Sue?
Yes,
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
motion passed. Okay. And I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed. We're adjourned at 10:06.
Thank you so much.